Got another what if archetype, what if CLOCKWORKs. Now I know that there's new Pokemon Science and Magic stuff out. I want to get through some of the what if stuff first, to get that out of the way, and then we can go back to Science and Magic. And it gives us Code 8 a little bit more time to get ahead of me and all that stuff. So yeah. Oh, and funny thing, if you go on Dueling Book, there's two versions of the CLOCKWORK cards. There's ones that look like they were made by Code 8, and one that look like they were made by some guy who just took random pictures off the internet. Hi, I'm the one that made the random ones off the internet. That and the Big Bang archetype. I'm sorry, Code 8, it's just that I really love the CLOCKWORK archetype. They're my favorite archetype that you made, and I just couldn't wait for them. The Big Bang ones I made because I liked them enough, you know? It's not that I didn't like any of the other archetypes, just like, you know, I go with my favorites. I might delete them, though, just so you can get the credit and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah. What if archetypes CLOCKWORKs? I'll be incredibly biased.
Hey guys, Code 8 here, and welcome to another episode of
Your
What
cop
If
from my mom's in
Archetypes,
the room.
where I show
Deal
you
with
some of
it.
the archetypes I've made in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed, and vice versa. So before we begin this episode, I'd like to announce that at the end of Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed, I'm going to be doing a sort of
Oh boy.
Q&A event, where if you ask me some questions
Oh Jesus,
in the
back
comments,
when Season
I'll
1
try
was
to
ending.
answer
Now we're in
some of
Season
them
3.
during that event.
Huh.
So if you have any questions about Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed, drop a comment down below and I'll see if I can answer them. So, CLOCKWORKs. CLOCKWORK monsters are an archetype used by David Tuck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed. The archetype's main gimmick is drawing cards to gain enough fusion materials to summon more monsters to the field.
You need a CLOCKWORK Slife for the Sky
CLOCKWORK
Dragon.
archetype are actually some of the first cards I developed for Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed.
Really?
Originally, they were going to be some sort of precursor to the Cyber Dragon archetype used by Zane Truesdale, but that idea was eventually scrapped, although I
Fair
did
enough.
nod to the idea in one of the previous episodes.
Originally, due to their impressive fusion techniques and draw power, CLOCKWORK monsters were originally created in mind as a fusion engine. Stuff for light machine-based decks like ABCs or Cyber Dragons.
Ah, I
In
see.
fact, originally, David Tuck was going to have an Xyz counterpart who used Cryo Beasts, which was another archetype I was developing. But unfortunately, unlike the CLOCKWORK monsters, that idea never really came to the light of day. And as such, the character was scrapped as well. But David managed to pull through along with his CLOCKWORK monsters.
Which is good,
Now,
because I like
have
them.
gotten comments in the past saying that CLOCKWORKs are a rip-off of Ancient Gears, and honestly, that's not even intentional. In fact, whilst Ancient Gears are based on the idea of steampunk, I base CLOCKWORKs on the idea of, well, clockwork. Regardless, I think it's about time I jumped
Look,
into
there's
this
a lot of
archetype
ideas in
anyway.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Now, we might
We're
be
not
here
just a
for a while
straightforward
since
thing.
David
Some things
obviously
rip off
uses
each
a
other.
lot of cards.
Do you know how many hero cards there are? And they're all the goddamn
Regardless,
same.
I'm Code 8, and here are the cards I made for the CLOCKWORK archetype.
That was hyperbole, of course, but you know what I mean. CLOCKWORK Knight. Light level 4. Machine. 600 attack, energy defense. Once per turn you can draw one card, and if it's a machine type monster, fusion summon using monsters in your hand and or the field as fusion material. This can include this card. This card can be used for fusion machine. This card can only be used for fusion summon of a machine type monster. So yeah, I'm not gonna be like I was in the previous program with stuff every time and be like how it's great. I'm just gonna be like, this is a good card, it's overall great. And this is a good card. You draw, and if it's a machine type, instant fusion summon. Yeah. Just lock us up into machine type monsters, but that's just fair. To have a trade-off. CLOCKWORK Butterfly. Level 3 light machine. I'm just gonna assume they're all light machines because they're, you know, Zane Freestyle. 13 attack, 100 defense. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one machine type monster from your deck to the graveyard. This card's name becomes that monster's type until the end of the turn. If this card is used for the fusion summon of a this card used as fusion material for the fusion summon of a CLOCKWORK monster, that monster gains 1,000 attack. Handy little bugger. Always going to get a foolish burial, and it can copy names. And it gives me a power boost, so that's always neat. Level 4, the CLOCKWORK Turtle. When this card is used for a fusion material, draw one card. If your opponent's monster conducts an attack while you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. And if you do, end the battle phase, but banish it and leaves the field. It's got 100 attack and 2,000 defense, handy buggy with good protection. And it's got a little drop power. Clockwork Gadget, level 4. 1400 attack, 200 defense. When this card is normal or special summoned, add a Clockwork monster from your deck to your hand, except itself. Just straight up a handy card. Clockwork Rocket, level 3. Rocket! 1000 attack, 500 defense. When a light machine monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, you special summon this card from your hand, then draw one card. This card can attack your opponent directly. Handy little bugger. If your field gets nuked, you can summon them on and get a free draw of it, and it can attack directly, which probably won't help much because it's only got 1000 attack. But hey, you know, you got your opponents down to that last little bit of damage. That can save you a duel. Or steal you a duel. I don't know. Clockwork Wyvern, level 4. You control 2 or more Clockwork monsters. You can summon this card from your hand. When this card is normal or special summoned, add one fusion spell that enlists a machine type monster from your deck to your hand, which usually handles like power bombs and stuff like that, and overload fusions. Got a handy condition that can search any fusion card with good stats of 1500 on both stats. So yeah, good guy. These are main way to your main boss monsters anyway. Spells and Twapsu. Clock Tuning is a normal spell. Send one Clockwork monster from your deck or hand to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards. You can activate 1 Clockwork Tuning per turn. Also, you can add special for the right from the deck for the turn except fusion monsters. It is a very powerful card given the fact that you can dump a card from the deck to draw 2 cards, so you just plus 1 out of it. But the fact that it does lock you into fusion monsters for the rest of the turn and just no special summon. Yeah, and it's a hard once per turn. It does sound like it would be like a synchro card, but no, fusion. That's the thing about Clockwork. They got 2 extra gears. Clockwork Polymer. Special summon 1 Clockwork monster from your deck, and if you do, you fusion summon 1 Clockwork monster from your extra deck by sending materials from your hand or field to the GY. You can only use this card once per turn. See this card's name. It's handy. It's got a free special for the deck and then instant fusion summon. Do I even need to explain why this is good? No? Didn't think so. Clocksmith. Continuous spell. If you fusion summon a Clockwork monster, draw 1 card. Just, yeah, drop out. Don't need to explain that. Clockwork Collection. Normal trap. Tribute 1 Clockwork monster you control, draw 2 cards. If it was a Clockwork Fusion monster, draw 3 instead. Only activate 1 per turn. Just a handy extra draw power. Your Clockwork monster, if something went wrong, get some draws off of it, you know? Clockwork Scramble, continuous trap. Once per turn, if you control a Clockwork monster, and if you would take battle or effect damage, reduce the damage to 0. You can banish this card from your discard and 1 Clockwork monster from your GY, discard your entire hand. If you do, add 1 spell card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per duel. It's a very handy effect. Got a little protection. If it's in the graveyard and you're about to take a pinch, you can add any spell from your deck to your hand. But it's a hard once per duel with it. And it costs you your entire hand, so, you know, it could be risky. But there you go, put all or nothing in that 1 spell card. Clockwork Rebirth. Normal trap. If you control no monsters, special summon up to 2 Clockwork monsters from your hand or graveyard, but their effects are negated. Also, they can only be used as fusion materials during the player's turn. When this, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon 1 Clockwork monster from your graveyard. However, its effect is negated. You can only use each effect to discard once per turn. Very handy, but again, the fact that you can actually bring back 3 with this, because you usually bring back the 2 Clockwork monsters, and then you banish the next turn in order to bring back the 3rd. Very good, dude. Clockwork Leap Back. Counter trap. Once per turn, if a spell trap or monster effect is activated while you control a Clockwork monster, you can negate the effect, and if you do, destroy it. Then gain 1,000 life points. Just handy. Don't even need to explain it. 1,000 life points seems a little extra, but whatever. Fusion monsters. Clockwork Catapult, level 5. 1 Clockwork monster plus 1 Light Machine monster, so you can use Cyber Dragons with this. Cannot be summoned with instant fusion. Gotta put that on there specifically. This card can attack your opponent directly. If both fusion materials used to summon it are Clockwork monsters, this card can attack twice during the battle phase. As long as there is another face of Clockwork monster in the field, this card cannot be targeted for attack. This card is destroyed by battle. Any battle damage you take is halved. At 400 attack, 1,000 defense, this you can attack directly up to twice per turn if you use 2 Clockwork monsters. That's 2,800 damage at the end of it. And you take only half damage from damages involving the attacks controlling a Clockwork monster. Which odds are they're going to off the other Clockwork monster first, unless they really don't want to deal with those direct attacks. So, it's a handy little bugger and a nice pain in the ass. Really good for late games and early games. Just to get that extra damage in. Clockwork Prince, level 7. Clockwork Knight plus 1 Clockwork monster, 2,700 attack, 1,300 defense. Once per turn you can banish 1 fusion spell from your deck, and if you do, activate the spell's effect. You cannot fusion summon for the rest of the turn except for Light Machine monsters. So you have to activate the fusion spell from your deck, but this moment you do that, you're locked in a Light Machine, so better be all or nothing. This skin could be just really handy, just thrown into like a Cyber Dragon deck, because you could just be like, okay, I send Power Bond to the graveyard and bring out Cyber Twin Dragon, and now FTK. And yet they still want to be good in Duel Links. Clockwork King, a level 9, I think that is, yeah. 1 Light Machine Fusion monster, you gotta use a fusion for this thing. And plus 1 Clockwork monster, 3,200 attack, 2,700 defense. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Quick effect, once per turn, shuffle 1 Clockwork monster from your graveyard into the deck. Banish 1 effect monster your opponent controls. If this card will be destroyed, you can discard 1 card instead. It's a very powerful king, but if you're putting in a freaking fusion monster for it, it should be very powerful. I put in everything for this thing. I should get a good payoff. Clockwork Cannon, level 6. 2 Clockwork monsters, generic, well, fairly generic in the archetype at least. This card gains surge attack for each Clockwork monster in your graveyard. When this card destroys a monster, inflict damage equal to that monster's attack. I assume it meant like when having us in the field. It's got 2,400 attack and it's going to get a Shining Flare Wingman boost, so that's handy. You can allow it to run over more stuff and do burn damage. It's the Flame Wingman of the group. The Shining Flame Wingman would be more accurate. Clockwork Loco Makoko, level 8. I love that it just looks like a Thomas tank in a train. Thomas's new friend, the Rail Cannon. Anyway, 1 machine monster and a Clockwork monster, 2,000 attack, 1,600 defense. When this card's fusion summon, equip 1 monster your opponent controls to this card as an equipped spell. This card gains attack equal to the level/rank of that monster. Equipped to this card times 200. If this card will be destroyed, you can destroy the equipped monster instead. It's a handy on summon, you yoink your monster, and I get more power for it. It's very good to deal with an annoying boss monster. And I don't think it targets, so deal with it. Clockwork Fortress, a level 7. 200 attack, 2,700 defense. Clockwork Gadget and a Clockwork monster. If your opponent activates the spell or trap effect, you can switch this card to battle position to negate the spell or trap effect and destroy it. Your opponent cannot activate spell or trap effects during the battle phase. It's a handy little shutdown. If your opponent's got a lot of back row, you can just have them be like, okay, I switch this thing to battle position, deal with it. And none of these effects say that once per not a lot of them saying that once per turn, so you just use it multiple times. Clockwork Dragon, level 10. Clock Wyvern, 1 Clockwork Wyvern plus 2 Clockwork monsters. When this card is on the field, any battle or effect damage you take is cut in half. Once per turn quick effect, you can pay 500 life points, activate a trap from your hand. This could also be that counter we mentioned earlier about that lets you gain life points. So it could be like, okay, I gain life points and not pay some of it. Or actually, it would be the way around. The 3,000 attack, 2,500 defense. It's not the main boss monster of the entire archetype, but it is it is a boss monster, that's for sure. Clockwork Paradox Dragon, level 12. It's a dark machine, the only dark in the group, so we're going into with Overload Fusion. Clockwork Dragon plus 1 Clockwork monster. Must be fusion summoned and can't be special summoned by other ways. When this card is fusion summoned, target 1 fusion monster in your graveyard. Equipped to this card as a equipped spell. This card gains the effect of that equipped monster. If this card would be destroyed, it destroy the equipped monster instead. Also, this card gains 500 attack for each Clockwork monster in your graveyard. If you could equip it to that one that gains 200 attack for every Clockwork in the graveyard, that's a nice juicy stack. Just think of the damage outputs. Most of the time it's equipped with Clockwork Dragon, but you know, you get that trap thing out there. But 4,000 attack, 3,000 in defense. There, this is your boss monster of the archetype. It's very good. Love this thing. Also, 3-headed dragon is just always cool.
Thank you for watching another episode of What If Archetypes. So are there any other archetypes from Yu-Gi-Oh! Unleashed you want me to do in the future? Drop a comment down below, make sure to like, subscribe.
I know next is Destiny Heroes, which is funny because we've gotten Destiny Heroes support. In fact, in the OCG, they banned Fusion Destiny. Anyway, yeah, Clockworks are my favorite archetypes, so of course I am very biased and I think they're fantastic. Later.